Okay.
Good evening and welcome to Thursday night Bible study here at Grace United Church of Christ. Right now we're studying 2 Kings, and we ended last week studying chapters 3 and 4, and we're going to pick up this week with chapters 5 and 6. Would anyone like to recap on their thoughts and feelings on last week before we begin? Okay, let's go into prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you, Lord God, for this moment in time. Lord God, thank you for your blessings and your unconditional love. Lord God, thank you for this study. Lord God, that it may feed us, Lord God, and that we may learn, Lord God, something important, Lord God, in our growth and our walk with you, Lord. Lord, we thank you and we love you. In Jesus' holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I did want to say something. I wasn't able to make it last week, but I'm sure you all talked about the fact that Elisha is kind of doing the same kind of miracles that Elijah did. Isn't that something?
Yeah.
So the person that you admire, the mentor that you had, to be able to walk literally in their footsteps, or to do, greater things than they have done is really awesome.
And it did seem like he did greater things, we studied over and over the different things, just like we're going to do in these next two chapters, over and over what he was responsible to do. I told Greg coming out, it's a lot of stuff in these 5 and 6 things, so.
Any other comments? No? Okay. All right.
Preaching speeches.
So, I'm going to read verse 1 in chapter 5. Naaman, commander of the army of King Aram, was a great man and in high favor with his master, because by him the Lord had given victory to Aram. The man, through a mighty warrior, suffered from leprosy. So they start off this chapter with a man named Naaman, and they speak highly of him, how he's a great man, highly favored by his master, a mighty warrior, and they have all these positive things to say about him. And then they have that big but. But he has leprosy, and when you speak of leprosy in the Bible, it's basically the sentence of death. You're basically seeing death walk. And I read somewhere they called it the living dead. They said in Numbers 12:12, the leper was regarded as the living dead. Just reading that small little portion of this man, isn't it amazing how you can have all these great things going for you in your life, and then you're sentenced with this devastating disease that by your own hands you can't do anything about it.
That's right.
And no one could do anything about it. I thought lepers were put away in a colony.
Well,
I read that
no.
he was a leper.
Because he was not in Israel. He was not a Jew. And you know what? And what happened is Naaman is the Bible shows such great esteem for him not to be a Jew. They called him a mighty man of valor, a title that was used in the Bible only for Jews. But here it is, a guy that's a Gentile, and the Bible shows such great esteem. They called him a mighty man of valor. That's what Gideon was called. That was David was called. That's what a few others were called. So they talk about how great this man was. And just as you said, out of all the things, one of the things that it means by him being great is that he was very rich. He was very rich. And He had titles. He had servants. But you know what? He had a problem. He was a leper.
I'm sorry. I just thought about somebody. I think it's really awesome. He's not a Jew, and also I believe I read somewhere that leprosy is just like some other diseases. There are varying levels of it, you know. So it could be that he did not have the one that was like the worst, where you needed to be put off somewhere, because I can't even imagine the lepers that we've read about in Jesus, you know, that Jesus came in contact with, being able to be commanders in armies and all of those kind of things. But the other thing is definitely, and it's so funny because on my way here, I was speaking to someone about this very thing, and I just sent my son a text about this thing, about the struggle that we have with everything else being in place, and then there's this one thing. There's that one thorn. There's something that's got to be nagging us and after us. You know that sometimes it's to keep us humble. But I also said to both my son and this other young lady that precious jewels don't look precious at first. You know, they got to go through some things. They got to get fired up. They got to be beat up and smoothed out and all the rough edges out. And that's what our life is like. Because God has determined the jewel that we're going to be. But we got to go through the process, you know, and as the lady preached today, there's some preparation that has to happen before we can even get to that place. So yeah, that's really something, boy. But we all got a but.
And isn't leprosy kind of like sin? Because sin we can't get rid of it. Any and everything we do, we can go to our physicians and everything else. He can't cure us from our sin. But it's something that we can have and can kill us. It's a death sentence that we have on our own life.
And one of the ways that leprosy is like sin is it's small. It starts very small and it grows all over us. And that's what usually happens with our sin. We start off at a small, just like say we tell ourselves if we're gonna drink, drug, or gamble, you know what we do? We start off small. We say, I just tried. And we try just a little bit. And next thing you know, it's out of control. That's the same way leprosy is.
Can I chime in there a little bit?
Go ahead.
That's also the etymology of a lot of diseases as well. Most diseases, most chronic diseases start off small, you know, on the cellular level. And then as the cells grow, they become more problematic. Okay? And so the current trend in medicine right now is to remove the cells as early as possible.
Can I get someone to read verse 2 through 9?
Okay, this is from the Good News. In one of their raids against the Israels and Syrians had carried off a little Israelite girl who became a servant of Naaman's wife. One day she said to her mistress, I wish that my master could go to the prophet who lives in Samaria. He would cure him of his disease. When Naaman heard of this, he went to the king and told him what the little girl had said. The king said, go to the king of Israel and take the letter to him. So Naaman set out, taking 30,000 pieces of silver, 60,000 pieces of gold, and 10 changes of fine clothes. The letter that he took read, this letter will introduce my office for Naaman. I want you to cure him of his disease. When the king of Israel read the letter, he tore his clothes in dismay and exclaimed, how can the king of Syria expect me to cure this man? Does he think that I am God with the power of life and death? It's plain that he is trying to start a quarrel with me. When the prophet Elijah heard what had happened, he sent word to the king. Why are you so upset? Send the man to me, and I'll show him that there is a prophet in Israel. So Naaman went with his horses and chariots and stopped at the entrance of Elijah's house. That's it.
Okay.
Well, you know what? Let me tell you something. Here it is, the enemy of the state. He has been raiding, running through Israel and Judah, and he's one of the reasons that he's so rich because the spoils go to the victim. And one of the things that he gained was a slave girl. Now you know what happens is, but what I saw in this during her capture, under her circumstances, she still has faith in a man of God and a God. No matter where she is, she still shows faith by her witness. She tells her mistress, she said, her madam, whatever you want to call her slave, want to say, you know what? Your husband got a problem, but you know what? When we have that problem, we take it to God. We go to the man of God, and he do what he do. You know what? Now, under our circumstances, under our lives, when we get a problem, do we call on the Lord? Or either do we consult the man or woman of God that reigns over our lives? You know, so we have to still be able to witness under all circumstances. Just because she probably was raised in a godly home, because she still had faith. Under my circumstances, I may be a slave, but I still believe in God. Here it is, I may be a slave, and I still know what God can do.
And you know what I thought about? I thought how God set things up. And I thought about you and I. When we met, it was just coincidence. I didn't go to those things, but I had to go that day. And I thought about that. One of the commentaries said God allowed the tragedy of her captivity to accomplish a greater good.
And then, you know what? And it goes on further. This whole lesson, I could have been like a little play, like, it goes on. You know what he does? He talks to his master. His master say, yeah, well, okay, I'm gonna write you a letter. So you know what he does? This man, he gathers his stuff and his money. He takes 10 talents of silver with him on this journey. And you know what? So I was like on my little tab and trying to figure it out. 10 talents of silver at that time was worth $1.3 million. But it was in silver, so he had to have about 4 camels full of silver. And he took that with him. So, because you know what happened is, he was like saying, I know this is going to cost me something. So, and he goes on, and the king, he tearing his clothes and everything, because you know why? Here's a king that knows that I don't have the power to do nothing. I don't even believe in God. And they sending them to me. What they sending them to me for?
It's a setup.
Yeah. So he says they must try. They trying to start something.
Yeah.
It's like it's a whole lot of wickedness going on in these areas.
So the young lady said there is a prophet. She was very clear. She didn't say go to the king. She said go to the prophet.
That's right.
You know, some people can't deal with going to somebody they consider an underling.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they got to go to the big person. She was very clear about who was going to do the healing. I also thought about how sometimes people will come to us and ask us things that we know we're incapable of doing.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of just directing them to the person, then we get all upset and stuff. You know, and it's like, okay, well, you can't do it, but you know who can.
Mm-hmm.
But Elisha had to remind him, hello, I got this. That's my part. That's my jurisdiction.
Yeah, and then you know what? Elijah, he gives a gentle rebuke to the king. Say, what you getting upset about?
Right.
He say, well, what are you getting upset about? And Elijah say, here's a king that don't even have a relationship with God. Mm-hmm. And then Elijah tells him, like, look, he tells the king to say, I send the man to me. I want him to know that there's a God in Israel. And then that's what we have to do in our lives. You know what we have to do for our friends and families? You know what happens? Even if they don't understand or want to hear it, we have to let them know that there is a God. and it's with our walk. Sometimes it's at the dinner table when we sit down and eat. Hey, you may be the only person that they see that will say grace. You know, you might you may be the only person that they see pray. And that's how we show folks that there is a God.
I just think it was real beautiful and poetic that this young slave was able to express, you know, her faith to this person who stole her from her family with no thought, no care in the world, but she could still have compassion and sharing the good news to them, because Naaman was without something, and she knew who could supply that need.
And he had taken her, he captured her, you know, so it was not, she was a slave, but the very person she's trying to help is the person that did something to her.
You know, I always try to think, she's probably spent a lot of time with his wife, and she may have been real decent to the girl, and they may have been talking about this problem that he had, because I'm guessing it may not have been showing all of that much. I'm guessing, but I don't know. So just because maybe she had a relationship with the woman, she might want to give her some advice about her husband.
She might have heard her distress about it or something, or she might have, you know, been talking out loud, because I can only imagine, especially men, you know, they got their egos sometimes. But he all that out there, you know.
Right.
When he come home, you know, he got issues. I'm just saying.
Like Ahab when he went and laid down and cried.
Yeah. Just saying. It doesn't have to include present company.
And the king, Mr. Drama.
Yes.
He received the letter, read it, and rather than sitting down talking to his men about what he just received, he just went on the deep end. And then Elijah, who was earshot distance, told him to calm down. This is going to be taken care of. Just bring him to me. He don't even have to cross your path.
Dude ripped his clothes.
They took up a lot of clothes back in the day.
Wait a minute now.
And you know what? And see, ripping his clothes means that he was more than upset. It says when you rip your clothes, that means that you are grieved.
He was tripping.
But you're ignoring some of the cultural traditions
Right.
at that time. You know, that's what they did. You know, they ripped their clothes when they were in this to show that they were in a highly distressed state. That was their way of doing it, instead of laying down and getting depressed and all those things. He had to actually do something, you know. And so most guys are wired like that. They have to actually do something as opposed to.
We got it.
Moving on. Can I get someone to read verses 10 through 14?
I'm reading from the Common English Bible. Elisha sent out a messenger who said, "Go and wash 7 times in the Jordan River. Then your skin will be restored and become clean." But Naaman went away in anger. He said, "I thought for sure that he would come out, stand, and call on the name of the Lord his God, wave his hand over the bad spot, and cure the skin disease. Aren't the rivers in Damascus, the Abana and the Parfar, better than all of Israel's waters? Couldn't I wash in them and get clean?" So he turned away and proceeded to leave in anger. Naaman's servants came up to him and spoke to him. "Our father, if the prophet had told you to do something difficult, wouldn't you have done it? All he said was, wash and become clean." Ooh. So Naaman went down and bathed in the Jordan 7 times, just as the man of God had said. His skin was restored like that of a young boy, and he became clean.
Mm. Amen.
So Elijah, he didn't even walk out. He told his servant, he said, go ahead, just tell him what to do. And he told him what to do, and Naaman got upset because he thought that, Elijah was supposed to be this magician, where he was going to say, hocus pocus,
Right.
you're cured. And because it wasn't as simple and amazing, and he actually had to do work, he gets upset. But then he only asked him to just dunk yourself in the water just 7 times.
Yeah.
That's it. And then he calls out, well, the water over here is much cleaner. Why are you taking me to
Right,
the
right,
Jordan? And the servant said, look, you could have done something. He could actually do something extremely difficult, mind-blowing, and you'll flip backwards trying to figure out how to do that. But he just asked you to dip yourself 7 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and you're good. So the thing is, Naaman was quick to walk away from a blessing just because it didn't add up to what he thought he was going to do or what was going to be expected.
Yeah. Early in chapter 5, we talked about how great a man and how favored this man Naaman was, and he takes the trouble. He travels all this distance, and the prophet refuses to see him. And you know what happens is, for a man of his esteem, this must be one of the more humbling experiences, maybe the most humbling experience that he have ever experienced, based on what the word says. The word talks about he's used to being honored. Everywhere he goes, he's used to being honored. It said in there that God caused him to win the war for Syria.
Yeah.
So this has had to be just such a humbling experience for him. And then he's like, And then God blesses us like this. When we are enraged and we don't know what to do, we think we are confused, just as this man was. And he puts a sound voice in our ear. It may be a subordinate, because you know what happens on most jobs. You know what? When there's a huge problem, the true problem solver is not the boss. It's the subordinate, the one that's in the ditch that knows what needs to be done to work the problem out. And that's what God does here. He puts somebody there to just speak calmly to him and just tell him, hey, if he would have told you to go get 10,000 sheep, you would have ran and did that with the quickness. Because he didn't bring all this money with him. He could have bought many sheep as he wanted to.
And then subordinate had to be bold enough, because Naaman was kind of upset that he didn't come out to him. And so, you have to be able to, like, calm down, boss. Do what the man said.
That's right.
And he was, thank God that Naaman did follow his instructions. And now he's cured.
That is so interesting, because I'm just thinking about today's environment and how certain men in power get snubbed, and rather than them sit back and listen to their advisors, they want to retaliate and do something stupid. And it's clear that human nature really has not changed a lot in all this time.
It really hasn't.
And we reference, it says here that his skin was like new, like in one translation said it was like the skin of a baby.
Yeah.
And we talk about when Jesus healed people and say, you go and be whole. This is the same thing here, that he got a healing that was a complete healing, and that's how God works. That's like, say, when he heals you, just like Jesus was saying many occasions, go and be whole. That means you're completely healed.
It's really something how we expect anything good to always be difficult. We cannot accept the fact that it could just be a quick fix, something very simple. We automatically go to the hardest thing, the most difficult way of handling situations. And Naaman was arrogant to some degree. He had some class stuff going on, regardless of his leprosy. And I remember when I first became an administrator, I started as assistant principal. And when we would go to meetings, we were expected to stay with other assistant principals. You couldn't go and sit with the principals because you were an assistant principal. I said, oh my gracious. And even in the school that I was hired for, students who were special needs students, they were not allowed to get on the intercom. You know, just the honor roll, the gifted students. They had gifted classrooms. Only the gifted students would come out. When we had guests that came into the building, only the gifted students. I was just appalled. I couldn't even imagine. You know, of course, that was one of the first things I did. They tell you don't go in and be changing everything, but that was one of the first things I changed. Everybody had to be involved. When there was Teacher Appreciation Week, it was only for teachers. Now, can you imagine? Only the teachers are getting gifts, but you've got the teacher assistants, you know, you've got the lunchroom staff, you've got the custodians, you've got the clerical staff, but only because it said teacher appreciation, she wasn't able to expand her thought process. So that was the second thing I did. Anything I did for the teachers, everybody came. Everybody came. And we all sat with each other, and that changed the whole dynamics, because everybody felt included. But it's so interesting how we can get caught in those things about our titles.
And I had forgotten about this on my job because it happened so long ago. Our grades. I started as a grade 2, worked my way up to a 12. And they were telling me that me and this woman had been going out for lunch all the time, and I got a promotion to another grade, and she was lower than me, that I couldn't hang with her. I said, first of all, that makes no sense to me. And nobody's going to tell me who I can be. I was pretty arrogant.
But still,
yeah,
it's really, really something. But there are a lot more people that think that than people that don't. You know, those of us that don't feel like that, we're kind of in the minority. You know? I'm sorry.
That's okay. Let's continue. Can I get somebody to read 15 to 19?
Okay. And he returned to the man of God, he and all his company, and came and stood before him. And he said, behold, now I know that there is a God in all the earth, but in Israel. Now therefore I pray thee, take a blessing of thy servant. But he said, as the Lord liveth, before whom I stand, I will receive none. And he urged him to take it, but he refused. And Naaman said, shall there not then, I pray thee, be given to thy servant 2 mules burden of earth, for the servant will henceforth offer neither burnt offering nor sacrifice unto other gods, but unto the Lord. In this thing the Lord pardon thy servant, that when my master goeth into the house of Rimmon to worship there, and he leaned on his hands, and I bowed myself in the house of Rimmon. When I bow down myself in the house of Rimmon, the Lord pardoned thy servant in this thing. And he said unto him, go in peace. So he departed from him a little ways. And you know, in this instant, he goes before the man of God. He say, hey, you did good. Let me pay you. That's what the blessing is. He say, let me pay you for what you did. And Elijah refuses. Elijah refuses pay. And you know what? And he don't understand it, because you know what happens, just as we live today, everything, the world is like this. Everything has reciprocal value. If I do something for you, you do something for me. You know, and he could not understand that when we work, the men and women that work for God, you know what? Our reward is not necessarily we're going to get it right then. And by him not being a man of faith, he didn't understand that. But you know what? When he talks about he want to burden the mule, because you know what? He's talking about loading up a substantial amount of the earth. Not only that he has found God in his blessing, he said he became superstitious. He said, when I go back home, and I got to go back home, I'm going to take this earth. When they praying to the other God, I'm going to be praying to the same God that healed me. And that's what happens in our lives. You know what? When we, when the evidence is beyond reproach, we can't go back. Just like say, when God heals you of something, if it's drugs, alcohol, hoeing, whatever it is, you know what? When God heals you, and you can't, you can't refute the evidence. You know what? You can't go back. It's a whole different mindset. Because when he went back, it said he took the whole team. It says here in the King James that he said he returned and his whole company. So they was like, where we going? So we going back to the man of God. You know. So this was at this point, this was a very this was and he said, and he telling us right now, say, I ain't gonna serve them other gods. And you know what? He comes from a land that serves many gods. He said, when my master and them go in there and get on there, bow down, he said, I ain't going in there and bow down. I'm a bow down on this earth that I'm bringing, because he's gonna burden a mule with a bunch of soil.
When people go to the Holy Land, what do? Bring back some dirt.
Yeah.
And that was a common thing that they did back in that day. They were superstitious, like Greg said. And so they figured if he burdened these mules down with all of this soil, he'd take it where he's going.
Right.
You know, it may do the same thing that it did in those where he jacked from.
Naaman new life of gratitude. After Naaman was cured from his leprosy, his heart was also pure. Where he came from, he didn't have a belief in the Lord. And within this, just dipping himself 7 times in the Jordan River, his whole life, his whole thought process, his whole faith has changed within a matter of moments. And when someone does something for you, you want to, how can I repay you? How can I do something for you? So it was natural for him to, feel like he had to, give him something for doing something amazing. Like he can't even express this change over his life, this new feeling, so he was just trying to give him a small little portion of something, and Elisha said, we good. Because it wasn't by Elijah's hands, by God.
Yeah, and then, you know what? Let me tell you something. At the end, when Elijah tells him to go in peace, Elijah is listening to this. This young man, he have just become superstitious. I'm going to take the land, I'm going to take this soil back with me and everything. When you know what? All you got to do is believe in your heart. That's all. And so Elijah does not sign off on what he was doing. He did not say yes or no to what the man wanted to do. He just told the man, go in peace. Go in peace.
But he was a new convert also.
Yeah.
And it says it was customary that the officials of the Syrian would have to worship the Syrian gods.
Yeah.
and that was one of the commentaries. And so he didn't know. You know, when you're a new Christian, there's a lot of things you don't know.
Yeah.
I was surprised. I told people I went to church a lot, but they never said open your Bible too. I did not even own a Bible. And when I opened the Bible too, I'm like, oh my God, that's in the Bible. I really was amazed at everything that was here. And so he did not know he was what the being a Christian meant.
Right. But Elijah was not going to tell him you could take 2 mules full of
Yeah.
this soil back. Elijah, we'll see throughout this lesson, it'll be certain areas where Elijah don't co-sign on what we think. Because he thinking that it's going to be all good just because he take this soil that he's going to kneel down on. And what he'll do, he'll learn is that it's by faith. It's by faith that whatever our healing is activated. Whether we want a physical healing, a financial healing, or a healing for somebody else. It's by faith that it's activated. And you know what? Naaman's faith was, you know what? He traveled all that mile. He didn't have to say, I believe that I could be healed. He showed it by traveling. All his actions showed what he was believing.
Okay, let's move forward. Okay, verses 20 through 27.
He had gone only a short distance when Elijah's servant Gehazi said to himself, my master has let Naaman get away without paying a thing. He should have accepted what that Syrian offered him. By the living Lord, I would run after him and get something from him. So he set off after Naaman. When Naaman saw a man running after him, he got down from his chariot to meet him and asked, is something wrong? No, Gehazi answered. But my master sent me to tell you that just now 2 members of the group of prophets in the hill country of Ephraim arrived, and he would like you to give them 3,000 pieces of silver and 2 changes of fine clothes. Please take 6,000 pieces of silver, Naaman replied. He insisted on it. He tied up the silver in 2 bags, gave him and 2 changes of fine clothes to 2 of his servants, and sent them on ahead. Ahead of Gehazi. When they reached the hill where Elijah lived, he took the 2 bags and carried them into the house. Then he sent Naaman's servants back. He went back into the house, and Elijah asked him, where have you been? Oh, nowhere, sir, he answered. But Elijah said, wasn't I there in spirit when the man got out of his chariot to meet you? This is no time to accept money and clothes, olive groves and vineyards, sheep and cattle or servants. And now Naaman's disease will come upon you, and you and your descendants will have it forever. When Gehazi left, he said he had the disease. His skin was as white as snow.
Greed, lying tongue, and cursed. Because of his greed and coming back to his home, he had to lie. And because of him lying, he was cursed with what Naaman had, but not only upon himself, but for his family.
That's right.
It's funny how some of us cannot accept that people will just do something because it's the right thing to do. We always want to put a cost on things, and he went against what who his master was. That's one thing that really gets my goat when people don't represent me well. You know, don't represent me the way you are. If you're gonna represent me, you're gonna have to act like me, or do the things that I would do. So that was really something, and he paid the cost for that.
Yeah, and you know what? And you mentioned that a minute ago that Naaman was grateful. He was showing his gratitude. You know what? He said, "Give me this." Naaman say, "I'm not gonna just give you that. I'm gonna give you a double." Naaman gives him double, and so what happens is when he gets double, he gets Naaman's money, but he also gets Naaman's problems. And you know what? And we don't want to be responsible for our sin to curse our family our children and our grandchildren. See, because just like say, we could do something that's horrible, and it ain't gonna just affect me today. It's gonna affect my children. Then it's gonna affect my grandchildren. And that's what Elijah is telling the brother here. So look what you have done. What you have done, you think you just caused a problem for yourself? You didn't ruin generations.
This commentary said, therefore the leprosy of Naaman shall cling to you and your descendants forever. This was a severe judgment. God allowed him to keep the riches, but also gave him the other thing Naaman had, severe leprosy. We see here a pagan who by an act of faith is cured of leprosy, and an Israelite who by an act of dishonor is cursed with it.
And so all that money and all those riches weren't going to make a difference because he was going to have a disease that was going to make him be banished from everybody.
Instantly. Turn white as snow.
Yes.
Yeah. Didn't take much. He didn't grow on him. Bam.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to start off in chapter 6 now. I'm going to start with 1 through 7. Now the company of the prophets said to Elisha, as you see, the place where we live under your charge is too small for us. Let us go to the Jordan, and let us collect logs there, one for each of us, and build a place there for us to live. He answered, do so. Then one of them said, please come with your servants. And he answered, I will. So he went with them. When they came to the Jordan, they cut down trees. But as one was felling a log, his axe head fell into the water. He cried out, all as master. It was borrowed. Then the man of God said, where did it fall? When he showed him the place, he cut off the stick and threw it in there and made the iron float. He said, pick it up. So he reached out his hand and took it.
Okay, you know what? Now, as from the within the first verses 1 and 3, you know what? That's just like he was talking. It say the sons. You know what? These are the young men that's they say that they are believing. They want to be in ministry. But you know what happened is they want to be comfortable in ministry. The house done got too tight. It ain't enough room. So they tells him, say, yeah, man, we like being in ministry, but we need more room. So you know what? So that's what we have to be. That's one of the things that we have to be cautious of when we just like say, we said we love the Lord and we want to be part of a ministry, but you know what we want to do? We want it to be easy, and it's not going to be like that. These guys were comfortable, and then they were like, no, it's too many of us. We got enough room. So they go to the man of God and say, look, hey, let us go. Say, we'll do it. Let us go. We can go get some timber, and we can build a bigger place. So what we have to do, we have to be concerned with our lives in ministry. We have to be prepared for the difficult times.
But we don't have to be crowded.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Because Elijah sure said, okay, whatever.
Right, exactly.
And you know what? And that was another one of those times where, you know what? He just said, he don't say yes or no. He just say, that's what you want to do.
Go ahead.
Okay, let's go do it.
Yeah.
And then they say go. They say go. You come go with us. He's like, all right, I'll go with you. But there's certain times in this lesson where he don't just say yes or no.
I think the axe was significant too in here.
Yeah.
Because it said it was a significant loss. It was not something that was plentiful out there. So they had to borrow it. And so when it went in the water, they were, grieved at this point because they lost somebody, something they had to borrow.
Yeah. You know, it was a great loss. The blacksmith was a wealthy person because, you know what? Iron was not plentiful, and just like the blacksmiths, everything that was made out of iron, the blacksmith made. It was down from your armor to your farming tools, to everything. And one of the translations that I read, it said that it wasn't just a loss; it was a great loss.
And even within that great loss, all they did was cry out. And how Elijah, he just threw the stick in there. Like, there you go, right there. And
What's the problem?
from the point that he started answering them, he was not bothered by anything. Do so, I will. Throw the stick. There you go. You know, he seemed to be very calm and through the whole process, and it's amazing how God is just using him in his life. And like you said, you know, these are people that's being taught to become in, you know, leadership and everything. So it's something that they're learning, you know.
And you know what happens? God performed these miracles through Elijah. It's nothing mysterious about these miracles that God allows him to perform. But we see just in this instance of the axe, he made the axe come to the surface and float on the water. Now, you know what? God could have made the axe come completely out the water. But what God requires us to do is to participate in the process. And everybody there had to participate in the process. Even Elijah had to put the stick in the water. When he came up there, Elijah tells the boy, now get the thing out the water. So when God just don't bless us, we have to participate in the process.
It's like you saying, I'm praying for a car. Okay, so are you getting an extra job to pay for this car?
There you go. There you go.
But there's also a deeper lesson there too. And the lesson that I see is that Elijah is trying to model faith. Okay? And when faith, the lesson is that even though you are maybe going through a hard time, it will turn out okay. You just turn your problems over to God and he'll take care of it. You know, you just have to believe that it's going to be done. So Elijah, he didn't get upset. He just believed.
And I think too also it's that, okay, you guys want to move out, you want to go get you a log and build you a house, but you still don't have to be dependent on the Lord. Because what if Elisha had not agreed to come? And they lost that axe. You know, so there's still a dependence on God, regardless of whether we branch out, we open our own church. You still gonna be dependent on the Lord.
That's good.
All right, can we move on to verses 8 through 13?
Aram's king was fighting against Israel. He took counsel with his officers, saying, "I'll camp at such and such a place." The man of God said to Israel's king, "Beware of passing by this place, because the Armenians are going down there." Then Israel's king sent word to the place the man of God had mentioned to him. Time after time, Elisha warned the king, and the king stayed on the alert. Aram's king was extremely upset about this. He called his officers and said to them, "Tell me, who among us is siding with Israel's king?" One of the officers said, "No one, your majesty. It's Elisha, the Israelite prophet, who tells Israel's kings the words that you speak in the privacy of your bedroom." He said, "Go and find out where he is, and then I will send men to capture him."
Any comments?
You know what now? You know what, Elijah did not even support or even have a relationship with the king. The king was corrupt. And but you know what? Elijah was a divine spy, because his people had been in captive before. And it would have been devastating, just total devastation if the Israelites would have been in captive again. So God gives him this word, and he gives it to the king. And you know, and what happens is everybody, when you know what, when God is moving, everybody could see it. The ones who believe and the ones don't, they know it when God moves. You know, that's just like some of us, you know what, when God brought us out the muck and the mire, you know what, and some of us come out so crystal clean, even the people we used to associate with, they know only God could have cleaned them up, because we know what he was like before.
Okay, let's go ahead and continue. Did you want to finish reading 14 and 7?
Okay. So how far you want me to go?
14 and 17.
Okay. They told him he is in Dothan. So the king sent horses and chariots there with a strong army. They came at night and surrounded the city. Elisha's servants got up early and went out. He saw an army with horses and chariots surrounding the city. His servant said to Elisha, "Oh no, master, what will we do?" "Don't be afraid," Elisha said, "because there are more of us than there are of them." Then Elisha prayed, "Lord, please open his eyes, that he may see." Then the Lord opened the servant's eyes, and he saw that the mountain was full of horses and fiery chariots surrounding Elisha.
Okay. Okay, I guess I want to do 18 to 23.
Excuse me now. 18 and 23.
Yeah.
Okay. When the Syrians attacked it, Elijah prayed, "O Lord, strike these men blind." The Lord answered his prayer and struck them blind. Then Elijah went to them and said, "You are on the wrong road. This is not the town you are looking for. Follow me, and I will lead you to the man you are after." And he led them to Samaria. As soon as they entered the city, Elijah prayed, "Open their eyes, Lord, and let them see." The Lord answered his prayer. He restored their sight, and they saw that they were inside Samaria. When the king of Israel saw the Syrians, he asked Elijah, "Shall I kill them, sir? Shall I kill them?" "No," he answered, "not even soldiers you have captured in combat would you put to death. Give them something to eat and drink, and let them return to their king." So the king of Israel provided a great feast for them, and after they had eaten and got drunk, he sent them back to the king of Syria. From then on, the Syrians stopped raiding the land of Israel.
So Elijah prayed over his people to see what he was seeing, and they saw that they were covered. They had no need to worry at all. And then after that, he blinded the eyes of these people that was trying to find him and attack him. And Elijah himself, the man that they was trying to find, stood up to them and said, "Okay, follow me, I'll show you the man." They were following him that whole time. They was with him that whole time. But they took him to a place, and the king the king sees him and like, "Okay, should we kill him? Should we get rid of him?" They're like, "No, feed him." And still Elijah is being this humble, amazing person, rather than taking vengeance out on these people that's trying to attack him and take his life. He's feeding them, and then sending them on their way. And because of that, God blessed them, blessed those people with not having to worry about them attacking them anymore.
Right. And you know what? He didn't ask God to fix anything. He just asked God to open up my servant's eyes so he could see. That'd be our problem. When there's a problem, you know what, we wanted an immediate, a quick fix or a change, and we have not seen what God has in store for us. And then as we travel on, it talks about Elijah when he says, "Should I kill him?" Elijah could not have said yes, because Elijah don't want to be responsible responsible for the blood of any man to be on his hand. Even back when when the young people was taunting him, and he cursed, put the curse out. You know what happens? The Bible says that it only mauled them. It never killed any of the young men. Not the Bible. That's what the Bible says. That's back when he first went back across the water. And they say it was like the little mob of kids was. So that's that.
So we can sometimes have a perception of somebody. We believe that they're the worst person in the world or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then we meet them and they're not who we thought they were. So that part about, I'll lead you to the man you are looking for, they were blinded to who they thought he really was. Because they weren't expecting somebody that was going to be nice to them, or somebody who was going to lead them to a place of plentifulness where they would eat and drink and all of that. That wasn't expected. And I'm sure all of us have had people that perceives one thing about us, and once they got to know us, they realized their perception was very wrong.
Okay, we'll finish up the chapter, and (24) to 33.
Now it happened later that Aram's king Ben-Hadad gathered all his forces and went up to attack Samaria. The siege lasted so long that there was a great famine in Samaria. A donkey's head sold for 80 shekels of silver and a quarter cab of dove's dung for 5 shekels. Israel's king was passing by on the city wall when a woman appealed to him, "Help me, your majesty." The king said, "No, may the Lord help you. Where can I find help for you? From the threshing floor or the winepress?" But then the king asked her, "What's troubling you?" She answered, "A woman said to me, 'Give up your son so we can eat him today. We'll eat my son tomorrow.' So we cooked and ate my son. The next day I said to her, 'Hand over your son so that we can eat him.' But she said she had hidden her son." When the king heard the woman's story, he ripped his clothes. And as he passed by along the wall, the people could see that he was wearing mourning clothes underneath. He said, "So may God do to me and more, if the head of Elisha, Shaphat's son, remains on his shoulders today." Elisha was sitting in his house, and the elders were sitting with him. The king sent a messenger on ahead, but before the man arrived, Elisha said to the elders, "Do you see that this murderer has sent someone to cut off my head? Watch for when the messengers come. Then close the door and hold it shut against him. The sound of his master's feet is right behind him, isn't it?" While Elisha was still speaking with him, the messenger arrived and said, "Look, this disaster is the Lord's doing. Why should I trust the Lord any longer?"
I want to thank you again for another wonderful Thursday night Bible study.
Amen.
If you ever feel the need to come on in and sit with us on a Thursday night, please come on in. We're at 2500 East 223rd Street in South Village, Illinois. And if you can't make it on Thursday, by all means, we'll welcome you in on Sunday morning for Bible study and for service, which start at 11 o'clock. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night.
Amen.